Hello again. This is the second in the series that I've called Juice of Use. Just a deeper dive into explaining some of the intricacies of what's going on with responses that people have been posting on the Facebook group. So I've decided to sort of answer everything in a video format. So this one is about the Civil National Business Centre, which is it's causing a lot of people quite a bit of concern, because what they do is they make it look very officious, and there's sort of court stamps on the paperwork, and it's hearing dates, and it's filed by solicitors and all that stuff, and it's nothing of the sort, really. For a start, the Civil National Business Centre, they have no word court in their name, or county court, or anything like that, and they're a company that's registered on Companies House and probably many others, and their address is in Northampton, at St Catherine's House. They used to be called the Northampton County Court Business Centre, but a few years ago they rebranded, and I'm guessing, and it is only a guess, but I think they may have got the hard word from the actual Northampton County Court about using a name that sounds very, very similar. And the bottom line is that the Civil National Business Centre is not a county court. They're listed as a subsidiary of the Ministry of Justice Courts and the Tribunals Service. Now, that's on the government website, and they are listed on there. But that said, it's got very few, if any, legally trained personnel working there, and absolutely has no judges, magistrates, or justices of the peace on site. And they also don't have a courtroom or a gallery, which kind of means that, all that said, they don't follow the CPR, the Civil Procedure Rules, which then in turn means that everything that they do is not backed by legislation and the Ministry of Justice and their procedural route to obtaining county court judgments. Now, it could be me, I don't know, but I would suggest that only a county court can issue county court judgments. So I strongly feel that CCJs issued from the CNBC are nothing of the sort. I think it's just more fear tactics. So the CNBC fails on every aspect of the definition of a court, mainly because they don't follow the civil procedure rules. But their business does seem to be doing rather well, and they churn out these judgments on a seemingly never-ending basis. And yet these judgments are made without due process, without any opportunity for us to attend the hearing and defend ourselves, and in the absence of any legally qualified personnel. And the paperwork that they send out, after having judged us, looks very official and even bears some kind of court seal, dubious though it seems. But they're not a court by definition. So the general rule of thumb is that the not so upstanding lawyers will promise their client a result, and they then run into our paperwork, and that basically closes the door on any dispute that is required to get any matter into a court. So without a dispute in the matter, it can't get into a genuine courtroom because of due process and civil procedure rules. So when the lawyer takes the case, they've got two options basically. One is to once they receive our paperwork, they can return the case to the client, because there's no dispute. So therefore, it cannot get into a county court unless they operate some kind of shenanigans. The second option, which seems to be the favoured route these days, is to engage the CNBC, and it's all done online. And I've done it myself. And you make the claim, you tick the boxes, you fill in a brief description, and then they send the paperwork out to the respondent. And usually, without all of this knowledge, it would strike the fear of God into most people. Oh my God, it's a court case, blah, blah, blah. We'd better cough up because it's getting serious. But if you are tooled up and you've got the knowledge and you know what they're operating, you can send them our paperwork, firstly to the lawyer, mainly to the lawyer, that essentially kind of says, you know what you're doing, because none of this is following due process, and you are going to become liable for your actions because this is tantamount to fraud. It's not a court, there's no judgment, and yet you're producing the appearance of that this is very serious and this is a real court, and you're going to be in trouble. So that's the second choice. That's what they tend to go with. And they're left with no choice to do that because they've promised the client a result. So what happens when we get that paperwork from the CNBC, if we know what we're talking about and we're not scared of it? When we send the lawyer letter to the lawyer, they may withdraw or they may press on regardless. And what happens, I imagine, at the CNBC, if we file a defence and state that we are going to defend this the whole way, firstly, they can't accommodate us because they have no courtroom, they have no judges, no magistrates, no legal personnel. So what they then do is refer it to a genuine county court. And I think that their problems then just begin, because a genuine county court looks at the case to see if it's got merit, and as soon as we submit our paperwork to them, they will see we are not disputing that we owe them anything. They will understand that we have made every effort to settle this matter, and it's now the claimant that's holding up the process by not producing the information that we're asking for. Now, that could be viewed many ways, but I suspect the main one would be that the court would take the view that these guys are wasting the court's time, because most of this could have been done between the claimant and us, the respondent. So I think many of these are rejected by a county court, and they go back to the Civil National Business Centre and just rubber stamp a judgment without any due process in place. Now, when the CNBC make their judgments, somehow they've figured out a way to get these registered with the credit file agencies, and it goes onto our history on our credit file as a county court judgment, which we already know at this stage that it's nothing of the sort, but yet there it sits on our credit file, and it causes us untold amounts of damage to our credit rating. The other aspect of this is that a CNBC judgment is unenforceable. They cannot engage bailiffs, and I've had this from the horse's mouth. The reason that they can't engage bailiffs is because they're not a court, and bailiffs work for the court by appointment. So the best that they can do in terms of enforce it is put it back on the conveyor belt of debt collectors and send enforcement agents round if that's what they choose to do. But there really is no enforcement that can be done by a court without somebody doing some shenanigans at some point. So because they failed in due process, they can't engage a bailiff. It's actually it's very much akin to when an enforcement arrives at your doorstep. If they arrive, they shouldn't. It's not a legal thing for them to do, to turn up without proper authority. But if they do turn up at your house, they've actually got no more authority than someone that works at Starbucks over you. So I mean, you know, if you always frame it like that when they turn up, that this guy works for Starbucks, why should I even speak to him? That's kind of the bottom line with these guys. They have zero authority. They've just got menacing words and actions, but really they've got nothing. So these guys that turn up, they routinely impersonate bailiffs, and I'm sure many of them actually believe they are bailiffs. And you can easily verify that by asking them to show you their oath of office. All bailiffs have an oath of office, but what these guys show you is a lanyard, an ID, and that's not an oath of office. That's an ID badge, and that's available to anybody with a printer and a laminator. So, you know, how far are we going to go with this fraudulent business of impersonating bailiffs? So the oath of office carried by genuine bailiffs is granted by the courts and authorised by the government. Bailiffs work for the courts by appointment. They're sworn into office and carry high responsibility. They're not thugs, and they are very polite. They're professional people who are chosen for their calm, disarming personality and high intellect. They'll not stand on a doorstep and issue threats or get agitated easily. And most people have never met a bailiff. And these guys aren't a bailiff by day and a nightclub doorman by night. They're the real deal. Oh, my legs are going numb. Turn around a bit. So somehow the CNBC has figured out a way to convince the credit file agencies that their judgments are legitimate. And those record keeping agencies subsequently accept these bogus filings as genuine and publish them to our credit files. This action says more about the due diligence of the credit filing agencies than it does about us or the goons that create them. And when this scam eventually comes out, it won't be the first time or the last that a supposed bastion of commercial propriety has been caught operating in a less than efficient manner. There are other fake courts like the CNBC operating throughout England, Wales, Scotland, Ireland, and the world. And their actions are spurious and damaging not only to people, but to the actual reputation of the judiciary itself. And it's about time the MOJ stepped in to deal with this. But I guess it's all about revenue collection at the end of the day. And as long as we tolerate it, nothing changes because no one challenges it. So the day will come that the CNBC and its counterparts will cease to exist. And it can't really come soon enough from my perspective. So I hope that helps to clarify a few things. Please check out the other videos on the channel and don't forget to subscribe for more juice of use. Thanks. Okay. Oh my God, my butt. Ah.